Okay, Tony, it's been a while since we've had a chat. 10 games into the season, 50% wins, 50% loss. What do you put that down to?
Lots of things, combination of things, but we're doing okay without ripping it up. We'd like to be a little further up the ladder, but some depth of squad has been challenged at stages, and particularly with some of the senior players that have been injured. But it's been tough at times, but that's good for us. It's a good way for us to learn from and to work out what's needed and the levels that are needed, and an opportunity for some young people to develop and build that grit and graft that they need to compete at Super League level. And so there's benefits long term as well as in the short term. But the other positive thing for us is when we do get the return of some of these senior players, they'll have freshness about their bodies, and as long as we can get in there and qualify for playoffs and those type of things, but I think we'll have some fresh and capable and experienced bodies feeling good. So we could be a handful there.
But after losing so many experienced players during the closed season, do you see this as a period of transition for the team?
Oh yeah, we're a different team to last year, absolutely. I think this week we'll either have 7 or 8 of our grand final team out on the field, and there's either going to be 9 or 10 that aren't there from last year. So that's huge amounts of numbers and changeovers in terms of are we a different team? Absolutely. We're also an ageing team in the past, in the last couple of years, and certainly we needed to change and bring on some of those young players that we're bringing on, and they're learning their wares, and some of them are doing particularly well, and some of them are learning some of the hard ways, and that's all good for their experience. There's a little bit for us we've got to grin and bear it along the way, but I'm sure it's going to be good for us in the long term.
Now you've got Bradford coming up at the weekend. I mean, Bradford's a club that's going through a lot of problems at the moment. No more so than having 6 points deducted at the start of the season, the bottom of the league. You've drawn them in the Challenge Cup, so it's a bit of a dress rehearsal for that game a few weeks down the line. What are you expecting from them?
Spirited performance. We're not treating this as a dress rehearsal. I'm pleased that we're playing them before we play them again in a few weeks' time, in terms of it gives you an awareness of the ground, and it reminds you of the conditions and what sort of field it is, with the upturned corners and the racetrack around it, and down in a bowl, and all those things, those conditions that you have to play under. And it's good that we're able to do that before we have a knockout game within the Challenge Cup. But it's not a dress rehearsal for that. Whoever wins this weekend, it'll have no bearing on the result of the next game. What I do see it as is good for us because of that awareness of how to play that ground, and the sort of the way the opposition play it. They know it very well. They use it to their own advantage, the type of kicks that you use in that ground, and how the ball bounces because of some of the slopes and all those sort of things. They play very well to their advantage. But I expect a very spirited performance from Bradford. They've been up against it for all sorts of ways in recent times and for the last couple of years. And Francis has done a remarkable job of holding the majority of them together and keeping the spirits high, and they've come up with some tremendous results, one of which was last week, being 16-0 down in the Cup, and come up with a resounding victory against a team who'd found some recent form in the Catalans. It shows with the spirit that they have within that club, and it's under no surprise because I've got a lot of time for Francis as a coach.
Hand on heart, do you see the Challenge Cup as your best chance of silverware this season, or do you still think the squad you've got is capable of going to the grand final and winning that?
I think we've all seen what can happen during the finals, and for teams not to have to finish first or second anymore to win finals and all that sort of stuff. But that's way off. We're not even halfway through the season yet, and It's fine if other people want to write us off and feel like we can't do this or we can't do that, but we're in there fighting and we'll continue to do that. And we might surprise a few people around the place as well, but we're in there. We understand the reality of when you go through change and when you have differences in personnel and you have to learn new combinations. And we all like to remember our heroes as heroes, and we all remember them in that at their very, very best. But some of our heroes went through some pain and suffering and learning periods as well in order to become those heroes and those champions that they became. So none of them were overnight successes in that respect. And we've got to go through some of that along the way. And whether we're good enough to be champions or whether we're good enough to win Challenge Cups will all come down to how we approach it and our belief in ourselves and how we perform on a weekly basis. So we're in there fighting and to perform well on a weekly basis and each and every game. And when you've got that sort of faith in yourself, it can be a powerful thing.
And what's the injury situation in the camp at the moment?
Improving. The good thing was we didn't pick up any further injury last weekend, and I haven't been able to say that too many weeks this year, so I'm saying it with a smile on my face, but it has at times been very challenging for us. We've had a good size squad, but that's been tested this year. It's got very skinny at different stages, but we get a couple back this week and no further injuries. So Michael Monaghan, who probably could have played at a pinch last weekend, we rested him up and got his body back a bit fresher and gave Brad Dwyer a chance to perform, and he performed very well, I thought, and in the first team. But we got Michael back this week, as well as possibly Ben Harrison back in the squad as well. If he gets the all clear, that's a bonus for us. We originally thought he broke his wrist or the scaphoid bone in his wrist, and it's come up clear, so we're grateful for that, because the other would have been 6 to 8 weeks, and so Ben could be a bonus for us, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks we may have Stefan back, maybe Richie Myler, maybe Ben Westwood in the next week or two. So some players not far off.
A lot of key personnel missing though.
Yeah, my word, yeah. Some of our more experienced players, Simon Griggs won't be far after that, and then Paul Wood, is going to be, an 8 to 10 weeker. That's a hefty amount of your experience, that has been missing, and missing at one time. I think when you miss 2 or 3 of those at any one time, well, you can probably cope with that, but it's when that hits you at the top end, and I mean top end in terms of experience, and it puts a lot of pressure on your young players to come through and perform at a very high level when they have to do it week in, week out. But it's good for them. The positive is they're gaining experience and they're finding out the rigours of Super League, and some of them are standing up to it very well. James Lathwaite, for instance, has stepped up, and he's stepped up to Super League, standards, and is working out what it takes to play at that level on a weekly basis. Rhys Evans is another one who's been very consistent for us in recent times. So, whilst it's a little bit of hurt along the way, and we have the odd result that we don't like, or we certainly are gaining a whole lot of experience from, and hopefully when we have those bad days, we learn from it and on what's expected from us and what our standards are. So they're not to waste. They hurt at the time, but we front up to them. In terms of a team, we handle defeat with as much dignity as we can, and we also handle success with as much dignity, and that's important to us as a team.
One experienced player that we haven't mentioned, who's not on the scene at the moment, is Chris Riley. What's the latest news on him? Yeah,
Riles is at Wakefield and playing regular first team, and which is probably the best thing for Chris, given that he's no guarantee in our team at the moment. Rhys, as I just mentioned, has been playing left wing, which is normally where Chris would play, and Rhys has been performing very well in left wing. So he deserves his position at the moment. In that, and if we were to bring Chris back, it'd be to play at Swinton, and we see both Chris and the club see the best option for Chris is to play at Super League level, and hopefully he can play himself in the sort of form that he'd like to be in, and for when he's returned, and whether that's be through injury or through form that he pushes his way back in, that's up to all sorts of things to work out there. But at the same time, I'd like to mention another wing success story at the moment, and that's the return of Kev Penny.
I was going to mention Kev's forced his way back into the first team.
Absolutely, he's been terrific since he's back too, and he's a way different player to what he was when he left us a few years ago. He's learnt a whole lot about it, the game, his positional play, his game awareness, just how he uses his physical attributes is a whole lot different too now, and he's done well. He's in there. He's been working hard to learn more about the game. He listens well and he tries hard. So they're all things that we respect, and he's certainly got some attributes such as his speed and capabilities to finish off plays, and as well as at the moment he's learning how to and when to defend, and saving some tries. So Kev's progressing. So hopefully he can keep that going.
Finally, your thoughts on Chris Bridges' performance at standoff?
Yeah, he was terrific. He was almost unstoppable there at times on the weekend. He showed his smarts, his strength and his speed at times, and he was good. Bridgie, when I first came to this country, he was an 18-year-old, and he was probably the most talented kid in the country at the time, and he's shown glimpses of that throughout his career, but he's got to a stage where things are coming together for him. His fitness is coming together, his attitude's coming together, his confidence is coming together, and hopefully he can kick on to live up to some of what people have seen in him over the many, many years. And when you see him in full flow, he's fantastic to watch, and fantastic to play alongside as well, as the players know. And so hopefully he can get some of that sort of form on a consistent basis.
And his kicking's not too bad.
He's kicking well. And he hasn't been able to do that through injury for the last 18 months. So he's got himself back into shape where he can practice, and we're all benefited from his kicking as well.
Okay, Tony, as always, thank you for your time.
My pleasure.